Hello, everyone. My name is Tom, and welcome to this podcast. In this series, I will talk about how to ask simple questions in English. This is a very important skill, especially for beginners at the A2 level, because questions help you start conversations, get information, and understand other people better. When you meet someone new, you usually need to ask basic questions. For example, you may ask about their name, age, job, country, or interests. These questions are short and simple, but they are very useful in everyday life. Without questions, it is difficult to communicate because conversation is based on both speaking and listening. In this podcast, I will explain how to form simple questions using easy grammar. I will also give examples that you can repeat and practice. I will speak slowly and clearly so that you can follow every sentence. You do not need advanced grammar to ask questions. At the A2 level, you only need a few basic structures. There are two main types of simple questions in English. The first type uses question words like what, where, when, who, why, and how. These questions are used to ask for specific information. The second type is yes/no questions. These are questions that you answer with yes or no. For example, if you ask, "Do you like music?" the answer could be yes, I do, or no, I don't. If you ask, "Where do you live?" the answer will be a place, such as a city or a country. Both types of questions are very common in daily conversations. In real life, asking questions helps you learn more about other people and shows that you are interested in them. It also helps you keep the conversation going. If you only give answers and never ask questions, the conversation may stop quickly. That is why it is important to practice asking questions regularly. In this podcast, I will guide you step by step. In each next block, I will explain different types of questions and give examples. You can listen, repeat, and try to create your own questions. This will help you become more confident when speaking English. Now I'll talk about yes/no questions. These are very simple questions that you can answer with yes or no. They are one of the easiest ways to start speaking in English. To form a yes/no question, we usually begin with an auxiliary verb such as do, does, is, are, can, or have. After the auxiliary verb, we add the subject and then the main verb. The structure is different from a normal sentence because the order of words changes. For example, a normal sentence is, "You like music?" A question becomes, "Do you like music?" Here we add do at the beginning, and the sentence becomes a question. Another example, she works in an office. Question, does she work in an office? We use does with he, she, or it. With the verb to be, we do not use do or does. We change the word order directly. For example, he is a student. Question, is he a student? They are ready. Question, are they ready? Let's look at more examples. Can you speak English? Answer, yes, I can, or no, I can't. Are you tired? Answer, yes, I am, or no, I am not. Do you live in this city? Answer, yes, I do, or no, I don't. These questions are very useful in daily conversations. You can use them when you want to confirm information or ask something quickly. They are short, clear, and easy to understand. When you practice yes/no questions, try to focus on word order. It is important to place the auxiliary verb at the beginning. Also, listen carefully to the answers because people often respond with short forms like yes, I do, or no, I don't. You can practice by asking yourself questions and answering them. For example, do I like English? Can I speak English? Am I improving every day? This will help you build confidence and become more comfortable with speaking. Now, I will talk about questions with question words. These questions are used when you want to ask for specific information, not just yes or no answers. The most common question words are what, where, and when. Let's start with what. We use what when we ask about things, objects, or general information. For example, what is your name? What do you do? What do you like to eat? In these questions, we usually place the question word at the beginning, followed by an auxiliary verb and the subject. For example, what do you like? What is your favorite color? Next is where. We use where to ask about places or locations. For example, where do you live? Where are you from? Where do you study? These questions help us learn about a person's location or origin. The structure is similar. Question word plus auxiliary verb plus subject plus main verb. Now, let's look at when. We use when to ask about time. For example, when do you wake up? When do you go to school? When is your birthday? These questions help us understand schedules and time-related information. Here are some full examples. What do you do in your free time? Where do you live now? When do you usually have breakfast? What is your favorite subject? Where do your parents live? When do you study English? When answering these questions, you should give clear and simple information. For example, question, where do you live? Answer, I live in a small city. Question, what do you do? Answer, I am a student. Question, when do you study? Answer, I study every day. These question words are very important because they help you have longer and more meaningful conversations. Instead of only saying yes or no, you can give details and learn more about the other person. Try to practice making your own questions with what, where, and when. This will help you feel more confident when speaking English. Now I will talk about more question words, who, why, and how. These words help you ask different types of questions and get more detailed answers. Let's start with who. We use who when we ask about a person. For example, who is your teacher? Who do you live with? Who is your best friend? These questions help you ask about people directly. The structure is similar to other question words. Who plus auxiliary verb plus subject plus main verb. Next is why. We use why when we ask about reasons. For example, why do you study English? Why do you like music? Why are you late? Answers to why questions usually start with because. For example, why do you study English? I study English because it is useful. Why do you like reading? I like reading because it is interesting. Now, let's talk about how. We use how to ask about the way something happens, or to ask about condition, method, or degree. For example, how are you? How do you learn English? Or do you go to school? We can also combine how with other words to make more specific questions. How old are you? How many books do you have? How often do you study English? Here are some full examples. Who is your best friend? My best friend is Alex. Why do you study English? Because I want to improve my skills. How do you spend your free time? I watch films and read books. Who do you talk to every day? I talk to my classmates. How do you feel today? I feel good. These question words help you make conversations more interesting. Instead of short answers, you can ask and answer with more details. This makes communication more natural and complete. Try to practice by creating your own questions with who, why, and how. For example, ask yourself, who do I spend time with? Why do I learn English? How do I practice English? Now I will talk about common mistakes that learners make when asking questions and I will give you some useful tips to improve your skills. One common mistake is word order. In English questions, the order of words is very important. Many learners forget to put the auxiliary verb at the beginning. For example, a wrong sentence is, "You do like music?" Cross mark. The correct question is, "Do you like music?" YW check mark. Another mistake is forgetting to use do or does in present simple questions. For example, wrong. You live in this city. Cross mark. Correct. Do you live in this city? YW check mark. Also, learners sometimes mix do and does. Remember, use do with I, you, we, they. Use does with he, she, it. For example, do you study English? Does she work here? Another common mistake is incorrect verb form after does. After does, we use the base form of the verb without s. For example, wrong. Does she works here? Cross mark. Correct. Does she work here? YW check mark. Now let's look at some useful tips. First, always practice basic question structures. Learn patterns like, do you? Does he? Where do you? What do you? Second, try to think in English when you form questions. Do not translate word by word from your native language. Instead, learn full question patterns and use them directly. Third, practice speaking every day. You can ask yourself simple questions and answer them. For example, do I have time today? What do I want to learn? How do I feel today? Fourth, listen to real conversations. When you hear native speakers, pay attention to how they ask questions. This will help you understand natural sentence structure. Fifth, do not be afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes are a normal part of learning. The more you practice, the fewer mistakes you will make over time. Finally, keep your questions simple. Short and clear questions are enough to communicate effectively. Now we are at the final part of this podcast. In this section, I will summarize what we learned and give you some final advice on how to practice asking simple questions in English. In the previous blocks, we talked about different types of questions. We started with yes/no questions, which are very simple and can be answered with yes or no. Then we learned about question words such as what, where, when, who, why, and how. These question words help you ask for more detailed information. We also discussed common mistakes and useful tips to avoid them. All these types of questions are very important in everyday communication. When you meet new people, you can start with simple questions like, what is your name? Where are you from? What do you do? Do you like English? How do you spend your free time? These questions help you start a conversation and keep it going. Good communication is not only about giving answers, but also about asking questions and showing interest in the other person. Now let me give you a simple practice idea. Try to imagine a conversation with another person. You can ask and answer questions by yourself. For example, where do I live? I live in a small city. What do I do? I'm a student. Why do I learn English? Because it is useful. How do I practice English? I practice every day. You can also practice with a friend, a teacher, or even record your voice and listen to yourself. Repetition is very important. The more you practice, the more natural your questions will become. Remember to keep your questions simple, clear, and correct. Focus on basic structures and do not try to make everything perfect at once. Step by step, your skills will improve. This is the end of the podcast about asking simple questions. Thank you for listening and practicing with me. My name is Tom, and I hope this helped you feel more confident in using English. Keep learning, keep practicing, and see you next time. Goodbye.
Write a comment. 3 best comments get 20 English lessons completely free.